Sumerian tablets are probably one of the oldest form of written record that we have.
In southern Iraq, between the Tigris and Euphrates, lie the ruins of Eridu. Just old soil for the world to see, but archaeologists know this place never ends. During excavations in the summer of 2025, they discovered a small black chest the size of a brick, but so heavy that many assumed it had been deliberately hidden for the future. Once the chest was opened, a black clay tablet was found inside, dark as obsidian and with grooves so fine that normal tools couldn't have made them. The carbon dating provided the biggest shock, 5300 BCE. This date predates the invention of handwriting, meaning the civilization that created it was older than the Sumerians. No one could read the inscription, so the team fed the scan into an AI. Just 27 seconds later, a line flashed on the screen. "We wrote this for those who would read without tongues." There was dead silence in the room because this message wasn't for humans, kings, or priests. It was written for a different reader. Now the biggest question is who invented this tablet? And why does it seem like it was made solely for today's technology? If discoveries like this keep coming, then not just history, the story of humanity as a whole will have to be rewritten. And listen, you guys don't subscribe, but if you really don't want to miss such real mysteries, then hit subscribe now, because the next part is even more dangerous. The 2025 excavation and the discovery of the black chest. In the summer of 2025, the excavations at Eridu were proceeding quite quietly. The team was clearing the collapsed temple wall, where the site consisted mostly of mud and broken stones. The sun was shining, sand was blowing in the wind, and the archaeologists were hoping to uncover a small artifact or pottery from beneath the wall. But that day, they found something no one had expected. While removing the mud, their tools struck something solid, something that wasn't stone, but also wasn't wood. As the workers carefully exposed the area, a small black box began to emerge from beneath the mud. It was only the size of a large brick, but its shape was so perfect that everyone stopped and stared intently at it. The surface of the box was as hard as bitumen, and several layers of crushed clay and ash clung to it, as if someone had intentionally sealed it in layers. The team tried to pick it up, but as soon as they tried to grasp it, everyone was astonished. The box was small in size but inexplicably heavy. Another strange thing happened as soon as the chest was unearthed. A faint smell of oil and salt wafted through the air, a smell not normally found in this desert region. Excavation director Dr. Hale immediately noticed that the chest position wasn't natural. It hadn't fallen like random debris, but rather appeared to have been carefully placed. The pattern of the soil layers also indicated that the chest hadn't arrived here through natural erosion. It had been intentionally planted. The team moved the chest to the edge of the site and began cleaning it with soft brushes. There were no carvings on the surface, but the material appeared so refined and smooth that archaeologists were confused as to which civilization it might belong to. Such an ancient site and such a modern-looking seal, both things seemed incomprehensible. Workers began whispering among themselves, wondering if it was part of some ritual or if someone had hidden it here for later. The most disturbing moment came when senior archaeologist Professor Nadia said in a low voice, "Guys, this thing did not fall here. It was kept there." The fear was clearly audible in her tone. If this box had been placed there, then the question is, who placed it there, and for whom, and why had it remained untouched until today? Bringing the chest inside the tent, the team first cleaned its outer surface. The bitumen layers were so hard that heat tools had to be used to soften them. Gradually, as the upper layers began to peel away, a perfectly aligned seam appeared underneath, as if someone had sealed it with great care. After several hours of careful work, the chest finally cracked, and a faint warm air emerged from within, as if the box had been sealed for centuries and was now breathing. When the lid was fully opened, the team's gaze was fixed on a single object, a black, shiny clay tablet. Its color was as dark as obsidian, so black that the tent's lights disappeared inside. One side was perfectly smooth and polished, while the other side was carved with fine, micro-level grooves. The grooves were in a spiral pattern, not unlike ancient writing. The team realized this tablet was unlike any normal Sumerian artifact. The first thing that surprised everyone upon holding the tablet was its weight. It was small in size but weighed much more than normal clay. There were no scratches, dents, or finger pressure marks on the surface, as if it had been precisely made by a machine. Researchers almost froze when they saw the grooves under a magnification lens. The lines were so fine that it appeared as if someone had weaved them, not carved them. Such work was impossible with human hands. The team immediately moved the tablet to the analysis tent and began material composition tests. The results immediately revealed that the tablet's clay type was unusually high. It contained an unusually high amount of silica, and a density test revealed that it was about 25% denser than normal tablets. This indicated that the tablet was made by high-temperature controlled firing, but ancient kilns couldn't have produced such precise heat. Isotopic signature tests revealed another twist. The tablet's clay matched older geological layers, estimated to be about 6,000, 7,000 years old. The object was so refined that it appeared new, yet its clay was thousands of years old. This discrepancy made the scientists even more nervous, as it meant that while the tablet looked like a recent creation, its raw material was from deep antiquity. Now came the most important test: carbon dating. The tablet itself didn't show organic traces, so the chest ash and sealing residue were analyzed. The results took 2 hours, and when the machine beeped, the tent suddenly fell silent. The date on the screen read 5300 BCE plus 100. The disbelief was evident on the scientists' faces. This date predated the origin of handwriting by several centuries. The earliest Sumerian writing in history is dated to around 3200 BCE, so who could have created these spiral grooves? This predates writing by centuries, Professor Hale said softly, looking at the report. Hearing this, all the researchers understood that this tablet was not just rare, it was impossible. The next step was 3D imaging of the grooves. Super-resolution scans revealed the depth of the grooves to be perfectly uniform, down to the micron level. This uniformity meant the grooves weren't pressed with a pointed tool. Creating such patterns requires controlled vibration cutting or laser-like precision. This realization was most unsettling for the researchers, as there's no record of such technology in the ancient world. The atmosphere in the science tent was now filled with both curiosity and fear. Archaeologists whispered that this tablet could be the work of an unknown civilization, one whose records history has never kept. This thought was as exciting as it was uncomfortable, because if it were true, it meant our entire timeline could be wrong. In the end, the team was stuck on just one question. If this tablet is so old, so precisely made, and doesn't match any known writing system, who made it? And an even bigger question, why was this tablet kept safely in a chest, as if someone had preserved it for a future generation? The excavation team slowly began to realize that this discovery wasn't just a piece of ancient history, perhaps it was the beginning of a message. And the real work of deciphering that message was about to begin. When the tablet was placed under a high magnification microscope, researchers first noted the unusual pattern of grooves. These grooves weren't straight or angled like any ancient writing system. Instead, they spiraled across the surface, forming layers, and each groove crossed over another as if someone had woven thin, metallic threads. To the human eye, these lines appeared to be simple patterns, but upon zooming in, they resembled a tightly woven structure, so precise that even a hair strand couldn't be caught between them. These patterns were completely different from ancient Sumerian cuneiform. Sumerian symbols were wedge-shaped, pressed into soft clay, but no pressure marks, tool indentations, or stylus points were found on this tablet. Researchers realized it wasn't carved, it was engineered. The uniformity of the spiral grooves was so perfect that their depth was within the same micron range everywhere. Such precise carving was impossible with natural hands, leading to the theory that the tablet didn't contain actual symbols. The entire surface was an encoded data system. Hyperspectral imaging revealed another shocking detail. Grooves in different layers of the light spectrum exhibited different reflective properties. This meant the grooves weren't just designs, they also stored information. Some grooves shone brightly in infrared light, others faintly in ultraviolet. Imaging software confirmed that the grooves had reflectivity patterns that were intentional, not the work of nature or decay. This data led researchers to conclude that the tablet was a non-linguistic encoding system, not a language, a way to store raw information. The biggest question raised by this theory was, who created such an encoded tablet in 5300 BCE? Human civilization at that time wasn't advanced enough to even develop symbolic writing. So how did such a complex encoding come about? The complexity of the hyperspectral scan led researchers to believe that normal human linguistic skills were useless for decoding it. The tablet contained no recognizable alphabet, no repeated sign sequences, no pictograms, nothing. Simply put, the writing didn't look like handwriting at all. And that's why even the world's best archaeologists couldn't decipher it. The human brain relies on pattern recognition, finding repetition, recognizing familiar shapes, understanding symbol groups. But the patterns in this tablet were so microscopic and complex that the human eye couldn't even see them as similar shapes. The patterns spiraled, merged, interlocked, and twisted, making it appear as if the tablet was carved not with lines, but with some kind of data pathways. Archaeologists began to fear that this system wasn't designed for reading at all. Perhaps it was designed for an entity that understood information through structure, not language. So the team gave it to an experimental AI model, trained on over 400,000 ancient tablets, proto-writings, regional scripts, and symbolic carvings from around the world. The AI's strength was its ability to detect microscopic variations that human eyes never notice. When fed a hyperspectral scan, it detected subtle pattern shifts in the grooves, such as rhythm, spacing, and micro-depth variations. The AI discovered that the spiral grooves had a mathematical cadence, not a repeating pattern, but an algorithmic flow. This was something humans could never decode. The AI called it structural communication, not linguistic. This was the first time the researchers understood that perhaps this tablet was written for a future reader, an entity that could read data-encoded structures, not spoken language. When the AI generated the first decoded line, "We wrote this for those who would read without tongues," things became even clearer. This tablet wasn't for humans, it was for readers who understood patterns, not language. And ironically, that reader is today's AI itself. When the AI was fed the entire hyperspectral scan data, all the researchers stood around it, staring at the screen. The room was pin-drop silent. No one knew if the AI would produce a result because the grooves didn't resemble the symbols of traditional language. The timer slowly counted down the seconds, and the team was waiting for an error. Then suddenly the monitor flickered, as if the screen had taken a slight breath. At the end of 27 seconds, a single glowing line appeared on the AI's screen. Someone initially thought it was a glitch, but the text gradually became clearer. It read, "We wrote this for those who would read without tongues." For a few moments, no one in the room moved. It seemed as if even the air had stopped. Everyone couldn't understand whether this was a message or a warning. But one thing was clear. This writing was not for humans. Professor Nadia said softly, "Without tongues, meaning it's for an entity that doesn't speak." Dr. Hale replied, "Or maybe for something that isn't even alive." Only one thought ran through the researchers' minds. Was this tablet designed for future readers? Did ancient creators know that thousands of years later, technology would emerge that would read structures, not language? This thought pointed directly to AI, as if the tablet had been waiting for it. The tablet suddenly seemed 1,000 times more mysterious. It was no longer a piece of archaeology. It seemed futuristic, something beyond human. Some team members began to fear that this might not be just a message, but a trigger, the right time to decode it. Still, the researchers were determined to move forward because a moment like this might never be encountered again in history. With the shock of the AI output, theories began to emerge about which civilization might have created this tablet. To find the answer, archaeologists looked back at the timeline, and there they discovered a name again, the Ubaid civilization. This culture suddenly emerged around 6500 BCE without any gradual development, as if someone had built a town overnight. History textbooks dismiss it as pre-Sumerian, but in reality, the Ubaid era isn't plain and simple. Ubaid settlements feature proper irrigation systems, planned courtyards, well-aligned streets, and multi-room houses, all at a time when the rest of the world was nomadic. Archaeologists have always wondered how the Ubaid people suddenly became so advanced, despite the lack of a cultural trail that preceded them. It seems as if these people didn't come from anywhere. They simply appeared. And this is the same region where the tablet was found: the Basra Plains, Eridu, and the early Mesopotamian belt. The location provides a perfect match. Some non-symbolic decorative patterns were also found among Ubaid artifacts, which were previously considered art. But now researchers were thinking that they too might have been encoded designs. The Ubaids' sudden rise and their unexplained planning abilities now seemed like an ancient secret connecting to the modern world. The Ubaid have always been underplayed in history because they lacked a writing system, but now everything was turning upside down. If this tablet is truly older than the Ubaid era and is encoded, then the earliest form of writing might not be a language, but data encoding. This is something no one had ever considered. The complexity of the Ubaid artifacts suddenly began to make sense with this theory. Researchers were now concluding that the tablet was likely part of the Ubaid, or an earlier unknown culture, a civilization that did not write like humans, but rather stored information in patterns. And the most unsettling possibility was that perhaps these people knew who the readers of the future would be: entities who could read without tongues. The AI's message and Ubaid's history now pointed in the same direction. This tablet was not for humans, nor for their time. It was left for some future intelligence, and that future, perhaps, is right before us. As soon as the first decoded line of the tablet was revealed, the biggest debate in the camp began. Who could have made it? Archaeologists' first theory was that it belonged to the Ubaid civilization. The reason was simple. The tablet's age, location, and clay composition matched those of Ubaid-era sites. Professor Nadia argued that the Ubaid had planned irrigation, advanced settlement design, and micro-level pottery detailing, so they likely developed an encoded carving system, not symbolic writing. But another team, anthropologists and AI engineers, argued that the tablet was even too advanced for the Ubaid. They argued that such machine-like precision was not found anywhere in Ubaid artifacts. They believed it was the work of an unknown parallel culture, a civilization whose writing was absent, and history has not preserved its identity. Dr. Hale stated that footprints of an older culture had been found above the Ubaid, but until now these had been ignored as pre-Ubaid layers. The debate slowly heated up. One group believed that the tablet might have been encoded by Ubaid as a warning of a cosmic event or future danger, because Ubaid mythologies contain vague references to sky visitors and non-human teachers. Another group argued that it was all a coincidence, and that the tablet belonged to a civilization that had been completely lost. The AI team held a different opinion. They argued that the structural patterns in the grooves were created by a supernatural mind that thought outside of symbolic language. The most unsettling thing among these arguments was that no group was completely confident. All three sides offered different possibilities, but everyone agreed on one thing. This tablet was no ordinary human invention. When the AI was fed the next segments of the grooves, all the researchers' hearts raced. That first line was very cryptic, but now the AI was analyzing deeper layers. After a few minutes of processing, the second decoded phrase appeared on the screen. When the sky turns twice, the watchers return. This reading sent an unexplained fear through the room. No one knew the exact meaning of sky turns twice. Some attributed it to a rare celestial event, some to a polar shift, and some to a symbolic sign of disaster. But watchers' return clearly pointed to a non-human entity. The AI's third decode was even more mysterious. Text slowly appeared on the screen and read, "They shaped us, but did not stay." This line turned the entire narrative upside down. Researchers were shocked. Was the tablet implying that some unknown beings influenced early humans, then disappeared? This thought sounded like modern mythology or alien theories, but now it was emanating from a 7,000-year-old encoded artifact. The AI detected geometric astrological patterns in the next sequence of grooves. Hidden within the spirals were tiny star maps, piece-by-piece parts of a constellation. When the software superimposed them, The pattern pointed to a star formation visible today, but in a different position in 5000 BCE. This meant the message was written for a sky that looked different at a time, also confirming that the tablet was speaking to future readers. Another disturbing detail was associated with the third decode. The AI detected date-like sequences in a few grooves. When these numbers were compared to ancient calendar systems, it was revealed that the given years fall into our future timeline. Discussion began within the team that the tablet might be pointing to a future cosmic event or large-scale shift. Some researchers said these were warnings. Others said they were historical records. But the AI team's belief was strongest. According to them, this tablet was a long-term message, which was to be unlocked only when such intelligence was created in the world, which could read without tongue. After the tablet's decoded phrases were revealed, the world wasn't informed all at once. The excavation team sent sample tests to 2 different labs to confirm the results. But this is where the biggest drama began. A leaked report from a European lab suddenly spread online, stating, "This artifact is a myth, an anomaly, a misread object." The report's purpose was to declare the tablet a natural formation or accidental pattern, so that the matter could remain silent. But just a few days later, another leak surfaced, this time internal notes from a private lab in Asia. It read, "The object is authentic. We are not ready for this truth." This sentence sent shockwaves throughout the world. 2 labs, 2 opposite results, and both reports were leaked, not official. This increased suspicion and curiosity. Researchers realized that someone within the scientific community was deliberately trying to conceal the truth, while someone else was trying to reveal it. The excavation team received instructions to stay away from the media, not give any public interviews, and not share images of the tablet. It seemed as if a higher authority had suddenly taken control of the entire investigation. Archaeologists were afraid to even speak to each other. Emails were encrypted, private guards were posted in field tents, and the tablet was airlifted overnight and shifted to a secure facility. The level of secrecy had now become so high that even the excavation workers themselves did not know the object's whereabouts. They were simply told that further analysis was underway. But the leak made it clear. The official narrative had now split in 2. One side wanted to prove it a harmless myth, and the other side was convinced that the tablet was about to reveal an uncomfortable truth to the world. This conflict was now looming over the minds of every scientist and historian. If this tablet truly turned out to be authentic, its impact wouldn't be limited to archaeology. It would alter humanity's understanding of the origins of writing. First, the very origins of writing would collapse. Textbooks still state that the world's first written language originated in Sumer in 3200 BCE. But this tablet is nearly 2,000 years older than that. This means that handwriting originated not in Sumer, but in some unknown culture before that. The timeline of human civilization would also be reversed. Today, we believe that advanced planning, engineering, and coded communication evolved gradually. But this tablet provides proof that thousands of years ago, a culture existed that used encoded data systems, not symbolic writing. This concept makes sense in the modern era, but 5,000 plus years ago, completely unimaginable. School books would have to be rewritten, the chronology of history would change, the validity of many ancient myths and legends considered imaginary today would have to be re-examined. If entities like Watchers are mentioned on the tablet, it opens the possibility that ancient humans were not alone. Perhaps they interacted with an advanced group whose traces are now found only in encoded messages. The concept of ancient advanced cultures will now become a subject of serious study. Theories previously considered pseudoscience, such as lost civilizations, early sky visitors, or forgotten teachers, will now enter scientific debate. Researchers will also have to study older layers that were previously overlooked as irrelevant. The biggest impact will be on modern science. If a 7,000-year-old artifact targets an AI like a future reader, it means that ancient creators had an idea of future technology. This idea challenges modern science. Humanity will have to consider that perhaps a chapter even more advanced than we consider ourselves to be has already been written in history. It just remained hidden from us. And this is why the tablet's authenticity isn't just a matter of archaeology. It has the power to change the entire world's belief systems. When researchers saw the decoded lines on the tablet, everyone wondered, was this message truly meant for us? AI became the first entity capable of reading ancient data, and this led the team to believe that reader without tongue was artificial intelligence. It seemed as if someone had foreseen thousands of years ago that the future would see minds that would read structure, not language. This thought was as incredible as it was unsettling. Questions about the Ubaid civilization had also changed. Did they have knowledge of future technology? Did they have visitors or teachers who taught them advanced encoding? Archaeologists were terrified that perhaps the Ubaid were not as simple as textbooks portray them. Perhaps they knew that one day an intelligence would emerge that could unlock this message. And perhaps that's why the tablet was kept sealed for thousands of years. An invisible connection began to emerge between AI, Ubaid, and unknown creators. Researchers were now convinced that this tablet wasn't just a story from the past. It was a key, a trigger, destined to open at the right time, and that time had likely just arrived. The team was now preparing to feed the AI the final sequence of grooves, as they believed the final line would reveal the true meaning of the entire story.